Hi, my name is Pam Carter, and this afternoon I'm doing a presentation on the life of Rosa Parks. What would you sacrifice for freedom and dignity? Rosa Parks has been credited as the mother of the civil rights movement, and this title has come as a result at no small sacrifice. Her belief for the dignity and the freedom of all was shaped by the encounters in her early years and later in the greatest act that would change the perspective of the Black community and our country as well. When Rosa Parks decided to challenge the laws of segregation, research shows she believed it was a suppressive evil of the right to an individual's freedom and dignity. The formation of dignity in Rosa Parks' early life, members of her family, including herself, were mulatto, of mixed blood, due to one of her great-grandfathers immigrating to South Carolina as an indentured slave. At times, her grandfather was mistaken for white. She says he took every bit of advantage of being white-looking. His radical attitude and actions instilled within her a fair sense of right and wrong that would have a far-reaching effect on subsequent interactions in her life. Secondly, while many people have influenced Rosa Parks, none meant as much to her foundation as her belief in God. Although surrounded by a community that lived in fear and anger, she coveted and believed the Bible principle that a heart filled with love could conquer anything, even bigotry. Unlike Martin Luther, she believed that certain situations of adversity demanded a response. She believed that it was important to make a stand, and that stand meant a decided effort to maintain her belief for the cause of equal rights. Later on, Rosa Parks became one of the first women to join the NAACP chapter in Montgomery. She started out as a secretary and later on went full-blown into the youth council director position. With her position, she was able to help influence other young people who helped in ending the war on segregation. Secondly, an act that would change and challenge segregation in the Black community's mind. What is it that she did? On December 1, 1955, she was on her way home, seated in the front row of the Black section when the bus stopped to add on more passengers. It was general practice in the South in those days for Blacks to stand in the back of the bus, even if all the seats were occupied, and even with vacancies among whites in the front. For Rosa Parks, giving in meant the continuance of bad treatment for Blacks. And so rather than get up and move to the back, she just scooted over closer to the window and refused to give up her seat and was arrested. Many Blacks in the community, upon hearing about Rosa Parks' arrest, were outraged, but none quite particular as Joanne Robinson. Upon hearing about Parks' arrest, she quickly went to work mimeographing flyers to distribute to Montgomery's Black population, urging them to stay off the bus. Her quick actions that night would help launch the community fully into the civil rights movement. Flyers were distributed to the students who took them home to their parents, and thus, effectively, this brought the community together, and they attended a mass meeting. This simple act transmitted the Black community overnight, and they decided that rather than just stay off the bus for that one day, they were going to stay off the bus for 381 successive days. At the end of their bus boycott, segregation was finally reversed on the bus lines in Montgomery. If you'll see here, I've created a timeline of Rosa Parks' life. Starting with her arrest in 1955 and her trial. This was exactly what the NAACP needed in order to start the process towards ending bus segregation. Later on, we find here, just a year later, Rosa Parks getting to sit in the seat of her choice. Interestingly enough, Rosa Parks had to move away from Montgomery, but she never stopped working to end the war on segregation. In fact, she participated in the Selma to Montgomery March on Freedom. Here we find her seating 40 years later in a bus identical to the one that she sat in those 40 years ago. And amazingly as well, we have an actual picture of the bus that she sat on. Yes, it's been renovated and repainted, but they found this bus and it cost the community $492,000 in order to renovate this and put this on display. Later on in Rosa Parks' life, she was presented with one of the greatest honors ever bestowed on a civilian. She was given the Congressional Medal of Honor by Bill Clinton. The world would say its goodbye to Rosa Parks on October 24, 2005. this little pioneer of quiet dignity and freedom. She was given the awesome privilege to lie in honor at the Capitol Rotunda. You know, when Rosa Parks decided to challenge those laws on segregation, yes, research shows she believed it was a suppressive evil of the right to an individual's freedom and dignity. You know, Rosa Parks attests to this generation, my generation, that what is essential to the dignity and freedom of an individual is having the ability not to just sit and merely reflect on the lessons of one generation, but to actively stand up, or in her case, sit in the way and define the outcome. Rosa did just that as she reflected over those encounters in her early years and later in the greatest act that would challenge the perspective of the Black community and our country. Al Sharpton said it best: we all should make a Rosa resolution. We will not simply mirror what we have seen, but make a resolution to enact the outcome of a better future. Now we're going to take 2 questions from the audience.
Did Rosa Parks realize what kind of implications her actions would have on her community?
You know, Rosa Parks had long been a pillar of Christian attitude and awesome. It had allowed her to become, you know, well respected and loved. So when the Black community heard about this arrest, it threw them into outrage. And with Joanne Robinson's quick action, you know, people made the decision that they were going to go forward for the long haul to end segregation.
What kind of difficulties did the bus boycott encounter from the community of Montgomery?
You know, the white community went into a frenzy of outrage. They bombed some of the homes, and Rosa Parks lost her job. But overall, you know, we find that they did not give up. They continued the fight for freedom.